Muy buongi viewers, welcome to the first ever episode of Load Shedding, a show where we cover the current affairs pertaining to Africa.
That's right. Every week we're going to look at a positive topic, a controversial one, and a topic that's going to make you scratch your heads in our head scratching topic.
Our colleague Faye is going to encourage you to watch something interesting in the must-watch segment of the show. My name is Kees Kiwinda.
And I'm Ivory van der Boom.
This week's positive news is about drone technology. Now I know a lot of you will be wondering how on earth drone technology could be used positively, since it has been used for such destructive ways in the past, dropping bombs or spying on people from a distance. Some of you might even be frantically calling home right now as we speak to plan an emergency emigration. But before you do that, know that this time, and for the first time in Africa, drone technology will be used in a positive way. In Rwanda, an American company called Zipline has teamed up with Rwanda's Ministries of Youth, ICT, and Health to use drone technology in supplying medical products to remote areas hardly accessible by road. Initially, only blood supplies will be transported, but more medical products will be included in future. Zipline is going to start building ports where drones can take off and land, with first tests set to commence in August.
So, the drones come in peace?
Oh yes, Ivory, they come in peace. And I don't mean the kind of peace that the missionaries were bringing back in those days.
False alarm, false alarm. Well, that's a relief and a very good solution. Our roads back home are in need of improvement and are often quite treacherous. Not to mention we have long distances to travel, and the further you are from a big city, the worse the roads are.
True. The drones would circumvent these issues, and they'll make sure that deliveries are done quickly and efficiently. I really think that using this technology will be beneficial in the rainy season when the roads are completely flooded, the dirt roads.
Yes, well, the drones can stay in Africa, in my opinion, as long as they keep being used for this purpose.
Just this one?
Oh yeah, just this one. We don't want any spillover.
Any spillover.
No. This week's controversial topic takes us to South Africa, where its president Jacob Zuma is drowning in controversy. His recent State of the Nation speech has been widely disapproved of in South Africa, with some calling for his resignation. However, what Load Shedding wants to discuss this week is the case against Jacob Zuma, in which he's been accused of violating the South African Constitution by spending state money on his private home. Now, viewers, we're not talking about a lick of paint and a new rug. No, we're talking about more than $20 million. And what was Jacob Zuma's response? He didn't know that he couldn't spend state money on himself. Why don't people understand that the president needs a tennis court and an indoor jacuzzi? The worst thing is that Jacob Zuma's action is not isolated. Forbes magazine looked at the 5 most corrupt African leaders.
Brace yourselves, viewers, because these statistics are upsetting. First up is Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, President of Equatorial Guinea. Now, this is one of the biggest oil producers in Africa, and yet it ranks as one of the poorest on the United Nations Human Development Index. For example, 80% of the children do not have access to proper education or good health facilities. As for the health, I think these drones could come in handy, the ones in Rwanda.
Yeah.
Anyway, meanwhile, the president's first son, Teodorin Obiang, spends millions of dollars of state-owned funds on his lavish lifestyle. For example, he has a property in Malibu. He has a Gulfstream jet. Michael Jackson memorabilia. You have to have those.
Yeah, you need that. Everyone needs that.
Exactly. Oh, and he has an expensive car collection.
Let's take a look at Angola, which is the second largest oil producer in sub-Saharan Africa and has vast diamond reserves. Unfortunately, according to Forbes magazine, its president, José Eduardo dos Santos, uses his government like, and I quote, his own personal privately owned investment holding company. Now, in a country with so much wealth, it's difficult to understand why 68% of the population lives below the poverty line and the life expectancy there is only 41.
Now, I'm sure we could go on about this all day, but hey, let's look at one more country. Swaziland's King Mswati has managed to make it onto this list, and frankly, I'm not really that surprised. Anyway, they get very specific. They say he spends the country's treasury on German cars, trips abroad, and women. And they also beat Angola, by the way. They have the lowest life expectancy in the world at the age of 33.
That is low.
That is really low. On top of that, HIV prevalence rates are also extremely high. It's at 35% of the adult population that are living with this disease.
King Mswati actually managed to run his country into the ground, as Swaziland is currently experiencing a fiscal crisis and even asked South Africa for a financial bailout.
South Africa?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Mswati did not consider the fact that Zuma would rather spend South Africa's state money on his own house. Besides that, the rand is dropping like it's hot. But you know, what you viewers need to realize is that Africa is not poor. Take Botswana, for example. They found a diamond the size of a tennis ball, which is the largest in over a century and the second largest in the world. So the riches are there.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, where does the money go?
Where does the money go? Indeed. What we need is good governance, selfless leaders who care about their people and do not see their office as a lottery ticket.
Exactly.
And now on to this week's head-scratching moment.
This week's head-scratching moment takes us to Malawi. So many confusing things going on in Malawi. What's going on? Anyway, I narrowed it down to two stories. The first one is, get this, a man comes home and stabs his wife in the head because she refused him his conjugal rights. Poor lady just came home tired from work, but hey, dude had other plans for her. Now viewers, on this second topic, I would really like to get your opinion. The story is as follows. In the north of Malawi, the director of prosecution has been ordered by the court to arrest anybody engaging in homosexual activities. The ruling came right after two pastors filed a complaint stating that homosexuality is against the constitution. Now, former President Joyce Banda has advocated for the law against sodomy to be repealed, but has met some resistance. According to the penal code, the penalty against homosexuality is 14 years in prison, with or without hard labor. So the question is, viewers, do you think that this is justified?
Yeah. Often the situation in Africa for homosexuals is quite dangerous. You may remember Kelvin Gomani, who was in prison last year for being a homosexual and then was released this year only to be beaten up by a gang for the exact same reason.
Violence against homosexuals at the hand of civilians happens quite often. In addition, in more than half of the 53 countries in Africa, there are anti-homosexual laws.
I have to wonder, how do you find someone engaged in homosexual activity, especially sodomy? I assume they don't do it on the street. If it was me, I would sue for an invasion of my privacy.
Ivory, that is your law degree talking. But you know, there are very few laws that protect one for their sexuality.
That's true. That reminds me of when I was a child and we were at school and you'd get beaten up by your teacher. You can't go home and tell your mother that you got beaten up because you know what happens. She will ask you, why did you get beaten up? And now you have to tell her what happened, and then you get what I refer to as a secondary or additional beating.
Exactly. I mean, if I were to be gay and I would go to the police and tell them that I got beaten up because I'm gay, the police will lock me up. In fact, in some countries like Nigeria, Mauritania, and Sudan, I will even get the death penalty. So viewers, there you have it. Let's have your thoughts on this topic. Now over to Faye for the must-watch.
This week's must-watch is for the video game lovers. Yes, we're talking about the video gaming industry in Africa. So, Madiba Olivier, a Cameroonian developer, has created a video game called Orion, Legacy of Coriodan. This video game is based on African folklore and mythology. Sounds interesting, right? You have to play it because I'm pretty sure it will be an awesome gaming experience. Anyway, that is it from the must-watch segment of Load Shading this week. It's from me, Faye, and back to Case and Ivory.
Thank you, Faye. You know, video games are rather interesting.
Oh yeah, do you play video games?
I used to when I was younger, but not anymore.
Oh, you're not that old.
You know, this video game seems to be pretty interesting, so if I'm not here next week, you know why.
Well, that's it from us today. Join us next week to find out if Case actually made it here. And let us know what you thought of what we spoke about today and if you've got any thoughts on what we should talk about next week.
Like us, subscribe us, share us, place your comments at the bottom. We'd like to hear from you.
And every week we greet in an African language, so don't forget to tell us how to greet in your language, and who knows, we might greet you in it.
And if the power goes, just remember,
Load shedding.